Hello and welcome to episode 272 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. We have had a crazy upbringing here of the last 8 weeks, and now we move into week 9. And Snoog and I have been telling you guys a lot that the tight end position, the running back position, the landscapes are changing completely. And tonight we're going to really hit on those tight ends. We're going to talk about how some of these guys are ascending, who to buy, who to sell. Nobody better to chop it up with than my main man Snoog. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, Dad. It feels good to be a George Kittle owner. I mean, he is the far and ahead the best tight end in fantasy football to own right now. Yeah. He is playing like the best tight end in football right now. And I don't see him. I know he's had a plethora of injuries in his career, but I don't see that really changing much for the next year or two. I think he's the guy right alongside him with Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. Those are going to be the guys for the next year or two plus to own for fantasy football, especially Dynasty.
Yeah, and I want to really break into that. Thank you so much, guys, that are commenting right now. I mean, we have Protect Your QB says, best in the business. How you doing, boys? My man, we got My Mind is a Weapon. These balls in there. Say, what's up, boys? Got Jordan Campos, middling team. Would you guys rather have Reed late first? And, I mean, we have so many questions. But he's saying right off the bat, would you take Reed in a late first plus a second for Nico Collins? Snoog, we got Nico Collins coming back in week 10.
Tier 1 asset. Give me Nico. Give me Nico. He's a tier 1 asset.
It's Halloween.
Good. Too dependent on the touchdowns, though.
We got some tricks. We got some treats. Let's talk about these tight ends. So you're right. I mean, over the last 5 weeks, George Kittle is the tight end 1. He's been putting up 19.5 points per game, not just in tight end premium, in standard. In standard PPR, he's putting up 19.5 points per game. That is absolutely elite. 6 receptions over 20 yards. That's number 1. 5 touchdowns. That's number 1. 387 yards. That's number 1. It's like George Kittle is him. Brandon Ayuk is not in. Snoog, right now, I mean, you and I were saying in the offseason, hey, let's pay a late first. Some people were saying, let's pay a 26 first. At this point, I have moved him up, way up in my rankings. I know you've been up there since day one, but I think we're at a spot right now where I'm comfortable paying, if it's tight end premium, I'm comfortable paying the 109. I'm comfortable paying the late first.
Absolutely.
Plus a Dallas Goedert type, a guy that I think is just going to be just there providing points. Like Hunter Henry in the first, let's move up to Kittle. Because Brandon Ayuk is out. He's going to be done for the rest of the year. Debo's hit or miss with his injuries. And there isn't really much else on this offense before Christian McCaffrey comes out. I think George Kittle is a smash buy. He has been all offseason. And right now, I have him as my tight end. I've moved him up to my tight end 5. I know you have him as high up as tight end 3 right now.
Yeah, he's my tight end 3 in Dynasty.
Yeah. And a lot of people are going to think that's crazy. I mean, we both agree right now. Brock Bowers is the clear-cut Dynasty tight end 1. I think he is seeing a little bit more of a struggle with Devontae Adams gone, to try to get open and try to do things there. I think he's going to fight through that. But you look at him right now, he's on pace to break the receptions record for tight ends, for rookie, not just rookies, but tight ends in general. He is over the last 5 weeks, 34 receptions. That's number 1, 338 yards, the 1 touchdown. I mean, if he had 3 or 4 touchdowns, we're talking about lights out. This is where you're getting a guy that's 21 years old putting up this kind of numbers, Snoog. This is insane. Like, this is to a point where there are only a handful of wide receivers I would rather have than Brock Bowers. I can only think of, outside of Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, I think I want Brock Bowers as like over every single running back because we get so much production. I mean, this is just a remarkable time. If you invested in Brock Bowers, like we said, and you and I were getting him 106, 107, 108 in so many places, he is shot up to the equivalent of the 101, 102 next year at this point.
Yeah, and correction, he's not only pacing to lead the tight ends in receptions, and he's pacing to lead the single season rookie receiving record in general. Like you said, that is incredible. Like, that is better than Jamar Chase, better than Puka Nacua, better than Justin Jefferson. And we knew the type of years those guys had. The best thing about Brock Bowers is he doesn't even have a good quarterback right now.
No.
He's really playing with bottom of the barrel, check down, veteran QB merchants that Brock Bowers is literally just open on every play. He can win on the outside. He can win in the slot. He can win downfield. He can win after the catch. We knew all these things as these traits coming out. I was super, super high on him. I really, to be honest, didn't love the Raiders situation. It didn't stop me from drafting him. I actually got him in my $200 league in a 0.75. I have him and George Kittle. I start them both every week.
Yeah.
My team is literally absolutely dominating in the league.
Playing a little
both of them.
Bully tight end right now is sexy and the way to go. And what's exciting about the rookies is we have Bowers, who doesn't have a quarterback. We have Malik Neighbors, who doesn't have a quarterback. We have Bo Nix and Drake May performing, and they don't have receivers. I mean, this class is really special. It's really exciting. I see my man Lobo just put Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, absolute studs at the tight end position. Trey McBride is still my tight end too. Base a lot of what he put up last year, because right now, over the last 5, I mean, he's on pace in that same area as Brock with 28 receptions, 324, 3 touchdowns. He's still, to me, the clear-cut dynasty tight end 2. Sam Laporta has fallen off to a point where I have him outside my top 2. I made a trade today, Snoog, and I really want to preface this. If you're contending right now, okay, not every player wants Sam Laporta, but I made a trade today in a league where he's a good rebuild buy, but in a contending buy, what I traded today was I traded Sam Laporta, where I have Bowers, I have McBride, and I have Ingram. So I traded Laporta for Mike Evans in a 25 first. Not everybody wants Laporta. You know what everybody wants? A 25 first. So now I got Mike Evans, who, man, what we've seen from Cade Otton, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, and what we've seen from these other pass catchers for the Buccaneers, Mike Evans is going to go absolutely ham after this Chris Godwin injury. Like, Mike Evans is someone who I am going out and actively making offers for in every single league, because he's not coming back till week 11. When he comes back, he's going to be a clear-cut wide receiver 1. I'm going all in for him. And if you can make these kind of moves, Snoog, where you're like, you know what? I don't need Sam Laporta if I have those other wide receivers. And I do that a lot with my positions, where right now, if I have Bijan, Gibbs, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, I'm like, you know what? I don't really need this running back. I'm going to trade this running back for a first, because when we get into the crunch of it, I'm going to be able to trade that first, but I might not be able to trade a running back like, who's the guy that we're looking at? I mean, under the James Cook era, someone that's more towards that, RB 8-9 area. I say maybe, hold on a second. This is Josh Jacobs. So maybe you don't want Josh Jacobs, but you know what everybody wants? They want that first. So if you can trade Josh Jacobs for a first plus, a guy that's going to give you production, that's the way to do it this time of year, because you insulate and you're safe.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said that too, because the way I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, I'm flipping Laporta. I'm a contender. I'm getting Mike Evans in a first. If I need another tight end, I'm going right to the George Kittle owner before I even do the trade, trying to set that up. If that doesn't work, I'm going to the Evan Ingram owner, and I'm saying, look, I'll move this first for Evan Ingram, a second, and a running back.
Dude,
I went to an Evan Ingram and an Aaron Jones or something like that.
I went to the Cade Otton guy.
Yeah.
I went to the Otton owner and I said, hey, I got this first, Otton in a second. Let's flip it. So then all of a sudden it's like Evans, Otton in a second for Sam Laporta. And you keep cascading and you keep turning that into something more. And it's like an absolute smash.
Cade Otton is like actually good. Like, he was good last year. You can tell when a tight end's going to like bloom. And he was a guy that was actually good at a young age. Like, he was always good and flashing. It was always okay, Otton's a good flyer. Otton's a good young tight end to own and stash. I have him in a couple leagues, and it's amazing because I have Kittle in like every single league. So it's like Kittle's on a bye, I'm plugging in an Otton versus a Noah Fant, or I'm plugging in Otton versus a Will Dissly. Like, that's the type of backup that you want, and a guy that when Kittle's done. Yeah, when Kittle's done, then Otton slides right in as a top 5 to 10 dynasty tight end. So,
and Otton's on that McBride where it's like it takes a couple years. You're going to see it. If Chris Godwin does not goes down to injury, I don't think we see Cade Otton emerge like this, right? Like, I think it's still those two guys. But now you're seeing him 39 targets in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah,
almost 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's here to stay. I do think when Mike Evans comes back, that's going to dip a little bit. He's going to start coming down a little bit more towards reality. But I think he's moved inside the dynasty tight end 1. Rankings. We got a bunch of comments here. Jay Gondia says, big regrets not sending Waddle for Bowers at the beginning of the year, but hope Waddle would perform. That was one that I know I suggested. Smash the Bowers side. We got to really make your moves there. Your boy Super Hot says Kincaid in a second to tear up the Bowers and Kittle. Smash either of them.
I'm doing either of that.
I am trading Kincaid straight up for Njoku. I mean, I want to go over, my new top 12
In Dynasty,
Dynasty
you
tight
would?
end. Oh, yeah. I want Njoku. I want Kittle.
You don't
Like,
want
I have
anything to
moved.
do with Kincaid anymore in Dynasty?
So
I'm
I have
fine owning him in Dynasty, but from a redraft perspective, I want nothing to do with him.
I have Bowers 1 in a tier
Yep.
by himself now. I have
Yep.
McBride 2 in a tier by himself now.
Really?
I don't want anybody else in that area.
Yeah,
I have
I agree.
I still have Laporta 3, Hawkinson 4, Kittle 5, Njoku 6, Pitts 7 in the same tier. And I know I have all them worth the 107 to 109. If I'm contending, I want Kittle or Njoku. If I'm rebuilding, I want Laporta or Hawkinson. Pitts is starting to really play really well over the last couple of weeks. Then my tier 3 is where it gets really interesting. I have Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid, Tucker Kraft, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, and Cade Otton. Like, these guys are the guys that I think they're worth a late first. I wouldn't necessarily pay it. Snoog, you and I talk about that a lot. There's a huge difference between playing Jake Ferguson in a second for a guy versus paying that first. I hear a lot of people were arguing with me on Twitter saying, hey, Tucker Kraft's worth a first. They're saying, hey, Cade Otton's worth a first. Josh Downs is worth a first. Those are the guys, Snoog, that I don't like paying a first. I'm going to be honest. Like, it just doesn't feel good. Give me a second plus. That's why, I mean, if I can give up Laporta and get Otton in a first, I'm going to do it. But I don't want to pay a straight up first for Cade Otton. David Njoku is about the last guy that I would even consider, just because the way Jameis has played over the 2 weeks that he has been the starter. David Njoku's got 31% target share. He's been a top 2 tight end. He's just looks like an absolute beast and almost like the unicorn that we wanted Kyle Pitts to be.
Yeah, the tight end position's honestly like very ambiguous right now to me. I'm so happy I just went all in on George Kittle. It was such a risk, but because he's had the injuries in the past, but he's one of those guys that I always thought was like right there with like the Kelces and Andrew, and better than Andrews. I always thought he was like right under Kelce, and he was always that guy. And if you look at, because of like missing games here and there, and just if you look at that, but if you look at his points per game since 2018, which is like 6 or 7 years ago, whatever the math is, I'm not doing it. He has been top 5 tight end every single year. He's been tight end 1, he's been tight end 2, he's been tight end 3, he's been tight end 5. Like that's the type of ceiling I'm chasing, and it's always like that for tight end. I chase that ceiling, chase that guy that can break out big time. And to me, I always knew, okay, fully healthy 49ers offense, regardless, George Kittle's a top 5 tight end. If Debo, an injury-prone guy, if CMC, an injury-prone guy, if one of these guys gets injured, the ceiling only goes up. This year, luckily, there's been too many injuries, which stinks because like Ayuk, the ACL with Ayuk, Debo's been banged up, CMC hasn't been playing. Brock Purdy, tight end's always been a position that the quarterback really needs to want to hit his tight end. Like it has to be part of his skill set and part of the scheme. And that's just George Kittle and the 49ers. It's that tight end. He is a staple piece. He's the captain of the offense. Amazing value. And I went all in on him. And I don't really have to. There's maybe like 5 leagues where I don't have a George Kittle or at least Brock Bowers or McBride. It's probably sprinkled between like an Evan Ingram, a little bit. It's honestly probably like three leagues. I have like Evan Ingram, David Njoku in one, and then I think it's Jake Ferguson in another one. And then the rest of them, I have like 3 McBride, a couple Bowers, and then I have all George Kittle. And that's honestly how I like to do the tight end position. I just pick a guy and go all in on him. It was Kelce for a while in a lot of my dynasty leagues when I was only in like 5 to 6 dynasty leagues. Now I'm in 20 plus. So you got to find a cheaper guy that you can own everywhere and have him break out. And it just happened to be George Kittle. And I'm sitting back, relaxing and drinking coffee, looking at it.
My most owned dynasty tight end right now, it's Bowers and McBride. I got McBride cheap over the last several years, and I was getting Bowers in all my rookie drafts from 106 to 108. So it's like I sprinkle in a little bit of Kittle, a little bit of Njoku, and then I have some Ingram late. And that's where we're at. I have a lot of questions here on YouTube, and I got to tell you guys, the only way to guarantee that we're going to read your question on the podcast, on the live streams, is if you guys hit up those super chats. I'm going to hit this one for you, Mark, because you've messaged in here multiple times, and I appreciate that you support the stream. Thoughts on trading Tyreek Hill for 2 firsts? mid in 26 and 27 in a rebuilding team. If you're rebuilding, you don't want Tyreek Hill. I always say that you want one of those assets to be something that is concrete. But if I can get any 2 firsts for Tyreek Hill, Snoog, I'm going to smash those. Like I think right now I have Tyreek Hill worth the 106, 107, and that's probably bullish. That's with Tua coming back. If you're rebuilding, I would much rather see this be, say, Josh Downs and 2 firsts, or Cedric Tillman in 2 firsts, or a mid to early first plus somebody else. But two firsts for Tyreek Hill at this point. I don't care if they're mid to late. I'm going to smash it no matter what.
Yeah, I think you got to do that too. And I never get caught holding the bag on those expensive bets and rebuilds. I've been dealing with a couple guys here that in some of my leagues, like this one guy, one of my buddies has Tyreek Hill, and he had a team that fell apart. He has Tyreek Hill, Joe Mixon, and then just young guys. He doesn't have his own pick. Just because he doesn't have his own pick, he is holding on to Tyreek Hill and Joe Mixon with all his might and will not give me Tyreek Hill just to make the other guys pick bad. I say to him, why would you do that? Just strip it down, take the L. You already traded your first, and build for 2026 or build for 2027. This is like the worst thing you can do. So never do that. Like even if you don't have your first, take the L. You made that mistake. Next time, learn from it. Don't trade your first away. If you have a team that's unsure, always wait till week 6, week 7, week 8, like Dad and I always say, before you sell your first, because it could put you in a lot of trouble. And don't be someone that is scared to sell vets and take advantage of that. Like I'm offering a first, a second plus for Tyreek Hill to this guy, and it's going to be a mid first probably. And he won't even take it. He goes, nope, I want 2 firsts, or I'm not touching it, or I'm just going to keep him and try to just have the best record I can to make my pick better. Yeah. It's just like that's how you lose in Dynasty, and that's how you get caught holding the bag on these vets, and you're just going to ruin your team doing stuff like that.
Sleazeball says, hey, some of the best advicees you can get, drop them the super chats, 2 absolute goats, put the pumpkin on there. Sleazeball, we absolutely love you, man. I appreciate that. This is that time of year where we're really trying to Snoog. We're 8 weeks in. We're looking at the home stretch now. We got to find these guys that are going to win that championship for you. And I think one guy that you can do it under the radar that you and I have been on for quite some time. Everyone was saying Luke Musgrave is the guy to own for the Packers, and it's like Tucker Kraft has literally become the second, if not the primary target here for Green Bay. I mean, 25 targets, 265 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 receptions over 20 yards. He's been above and beyond what any of us could have expected. He has been unbelievable. Right now, he's in that area of no man's land. I think he's worth a first, so I would not pay a first. I would love to tear down from Sam Laporta. Heck, I would even tear down from Trey McBride because he's been playing that well. He has been playing lights out. He's super young, super talented, a lot like Otten, where he's given the opportunity. We saw Watson go down to injury. We saw Dubs have injuries. We saw Reed have injuries. Next thing you know, Otten blows up. Next thing you know, Tucker Kraft blows up. And these guys are super talented tight ends. Out of those 2, who do you prefer? And what kind of value, do you see investing in these guys? Because I think they're prime tear downs. If you have Brock Bowers, you don't tear down for nothing. I'm sorry. He doesn't leave your team. He should not get traded.
Never.
Trey McBride, if you give me a mid first and Tucker Kraft, I'm going to do it. Sam Laporta, if you give me a first and Kraft, I'm going to do it. TJ Hawkinson,
Laporta,
I'm going to do it.
Laporta's not on. Laporta was never on McBride's level as a talent. He just had such a good situation.
Yeah. Well, and J-Mo was out, so he did it.
I don't think,
right?
Yeah. Now that we see it, I don't think Laporta was ever as good as everyone thought. I think he's good. I think he's a great young tight end. I think he's in a good situation long term. I just don't think he was ever actually as good as everyone thought he was, whereas he just had a really, really good rookie year that touchdowns fell his way. He had 10 touchdowns. It's just not going to be situation viable
for him. J-Mo comes in, and now Laporta takes a back seat. And then we talk about the opposite. Godwin goes down and Otten steps up. And Reed and other guys get injured in Green Bay, and Kraft steps up. So, I mean, I'm in on these guys. What really worries me in the tight end position is Dalton Kincaid. He should be absolutely eating right now. You and I were very high on him. I like him as a talent. But you see, Shakir is literally doing what we wanted Kincaid to do. Keon Coleman is tearing it up on the outside. Sleazeball, I know you're watching. It's Keon Coleman season, not Curtis Samuel. But, the rest of these guys, and now Amari Cooper is going to start to get in there. I would sell Dalton Kincaid for any 25 or 26 first at this point. Doesn't have to be mid. It's any. I'm like at that spot. I want you to throw me back in Ben Sinnott, Hunter Henry, something like that. But I'm willing to sell him for any. I'm really willing to move off. And I know maybe that's too soon, but I think at the tight end position, we just got to go there.
Yeah, it's tough. I actually like holding Kincaid just because he's Allen. He can be Allen's guy. Hopefully, we just need touchdowns to fall his way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looks great. He's one of those guys that you watch him play, you watch him make plays, and watch him catch the ball. You're like, yes, like Kincaid, stud, first round tight end. We all thought he was, and then it's like he's not on the field a lot. They're spreading the ball around. Like, I don't think there's other than if Amari settles in, I don't think there's ever going to be a guy, even Keon's looking great. He's going to be a good playmaker for the Bills. I don't think there's ever going to be a guy where it's like, he's the guy right now in this Joe Brady offense. It's literally scheme, spread the ball around, everybody eats, let's go. And that's how it's working. And Josh Allen is one turnover playing this way. They finally did something.
We're back-to-back big games from Keon, which is exciting for me. Another guy has had back-to-back big games is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, 314 yards, 4 20-plus yards receptions, 2 touchdowns, both of them last week, and that's in the last 5 weeks. He has been the tight end 5 at 12.9 fantasy points per game, and he's become viable now. So what do you do with Kyle Pitts, right? There were months where you could not get squat for Kyle Pitts, right? Now we're at a spot where you can get a late first for him. What are you doing with Kyle Pitts? Are you using him to tier up? Are you using him to tier down? Are you rolling with him? Or are you flipping him even up for, say Kraft, Kelce, Andrews, Njoku?
I want nothing to do with him.
I'm done too. I'm done.
I'll tell you why.
I have 0 shares. I traded my only share in the offseason.
I don't own any of him.
Because he was that guy, much like Anthony Richardson, and we missed on Anthony Richardson.
He's literally the Anthony Richardson of tight ends.
He costs more than what he was worth. Like, you paid his ceiling.
Remember, he was the first-round starter pick? Oh, my God.
Oh, Richardson? Oh, yeah. And Kyle Pitts was there, too. It's like there's guys that, you know what? It's great that you drafted him in your rookie draft if you got him at 106, 107, whatever you did. After that, it was too expensive. You're not going to be able to get him. You're not going to be able to go to that area. I'm going to throw a couple. I mean, Mark Andrews in a second or Kyle Pitts.
Andrews.
Absolutely. Mark Andrews he's coming back. He's tight end 8.
David
Njoku or Kyle Pitts.
Njoku.
How about Hunter Henry and the 201?
Pitts.
It's close because Hunter Henry, since Drake May has taken over, 222 yards, 3 receptions over 20 yards. He's had 6+ targets every single game, and he's the tight end 11. So I think he has a viable option. What we talk about a lot is guys that at the tight end position, Bowers has a huge ceiling. Otten has a ceiling. Kittle has a ceiling. Kraft has a ceiling. Pitts, there's no floor guys. And I think Hunter Henry's that. I think Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz give you a floor that is crazy cheap. You can buy Hunter Henry for a pair of thirds. You can buy him for, if you have to, which I did the other day on a team that it was just decimated. I gave up a late second for Hunter Henry in a third. I don't advocate doing that. It was just like no one would sell me a tight end. It's in Guru's league, which is like they all look at tight ends as if that's the number 1 position in football. Shout out to Guru. Awesome guy, David Gattiari. But, I mean, I think Hunter Henry's become viable there. How about Kincaid and a second or Pitts in a third?
Kincaid.
Okay. All right. I can get behind
that. I'm taking Kincaid over Pitts in a second. Easy.
All right. So the Excalibur just said, hey, you guys, speaking of Anthony Richardson, what are you selling or holding for? If you're selling, what do you be selling for? Let's be honest. Joe Flacco's the starter now. Okay. So we have to look at that. Everyone's talking about how great Josh Downs is going to be. I think that makes him better. I think that makes Michael Pittman viable. I think Michael Pittman becomes a flex wide receiver 3. I think Josh Downs becomes a back end wide receiver 2. I think Joe Flacco becomes a back end QB 2. And Anthony Richardson, we know he's tired, right? But I had a guy come up to me today. He said, hey, guy offered me Anthony Richardson for his late 26 and 27 for or 26 and 27 seconds.
I'd pay seconds. I'd pay seconds for him. Yeah.
Right. I'd pay a late first and 26, or I'd pay 2 seconds. I'd pay a late first still. I know that might be a little bit bullish because we're going to see him again. Now, the difference between what everybody's talking about with Josh Downs versus some of these other wide receivers, Joe Flacco is going to be this year only. So Downs gets a bump in value. I think Adonai Mitchell gets a bump. I think all these guys get a little bit of a bump. And even Jonathan Taylor gets a bump because he's going to see more quality targets. He's going to see more red zone opportunities. Anthony Richardson is just really just a case of, man, this sucks. Like you did this with Fields. You did this with Richardson. We invested in, and now you're out. You can't sell. And then we always have those cautionary tales of selling at the right time.
Yep.
If you invested in Fields in the offseason, you bought him for a second, right? And then he started 4 games and you could flip him for a first. Anthony Richardson will be a starter again sooner than later. You're going to be able to flip him for a first. If you can get a second or a pair of seconds or a second. And I mean, I offered him a second and Jameis Winston for him. And the guy's like, I'll get back to you on that. Like the fact that he's even saying, I'll get back to you on that, it's worth it. You got to kick the tires there.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how Adonai Mitchell blooms because on film, he's all 22, and I've seen a lot of clips. He's absolutely cooking out there, like cooking left and right, open. He should have like 5 or 6 touchdowns this year. But A-Rich literally was just that.
It's bad. It's like 30.
It was just
like 30%, man.
Dude, it was just so bad. It's like buy low window on Adonai Mitchell. All the Josh Down hypes right now. Josh Down's great. He has his role in this offense, but Adonai Mitchell literally is coming from Michael Pittman's job. Like Michael Pittman is not good anymore. Like he was never good. I always thought he was just force-fed volume. People thought he was like this elite route runner, this great player. I never thought he was great. I thought he was a good, solid player, but he was never great. And it's showing now that he doesn't have Gardner Minshew that can't throw the ball past the sticks, feeding him the ball at the 8-yard line every time. So
our guy Life says, hey, opinion here. Superflex 0.5
AJB,
PPR.
Not close either.
25 early to mid first, 26 mid first, Ladd, Bigsby, or AJ Brown and Brock Purdy. It's Purdy. It's Purdy and AJB. But here's the thing, Snoog. Is there a more underrated wide receiver than AJ Brown? And is there a more underrated quarterback than Brock Purdy right now? Brock Purdy was QB7 last year. He's QB8 this year. And a lot of people are selling him for random firsts. And I'm like, what the heck? Like,
I'm buying him. I own a lot of them right now.
I own a ton of Brock
Purdy. Once CMC's back too, that offense is going to be ripping if CMC comes back healthy.
He's my QB2 in Smash 14, 15, and 16. Like I went in. I'm like, he's just too cheap.
He's got a little bit of rushing upside too lately. Have you noticed that? He's been getting like 30, 40, 45, like 38 rushing yards a game. Like I'll take an extra 4 points a week all day long. He has a 16, 17 point average week, and then he gets you 5 points on the ground, and it's 22. So little things like that can make a difference. He's been playing lights out. He's got Debo back healthy, Kittle back healthy. Once Jennings is back healthy, Pearsall getting into the mix, getting comfortable down the stretch, and then with CMC back fully healthy, it's going to be lights out for Purdy. And they got a shootout schedule up ahead of them. So
he's the best kept secret at the quarterback position. The best kept secret in the fantasy football world is this Discord you and I have built, man. It's got all of our rankings, all of our trade advice, start sits, roster constructions, patreon.com/smash accept. You guys join now for $5 a month. This was our best month yet. 82 new subscribers, not a single one left. You guys are like jumping in there. You know that this is that way that's going to put you over the top. It's got all my super flex values. It's got all Snoog's rankings weekly and throughout the month. I mean, we are taking care of business. We are putting you guys in a position to absolutely smash your ROI. Because let's be honest, Snoog, like everyone's like, Yeah, it feels good talking about your ranks. It's all about money. It's all about building connections and winning money. And that's what we do in there. There's so many friendships, like there are guys that are in the Scott Fishbowl, like Eric, who, yes, I did stomp you this week, in Scott Fishbowl 14, but we got guys opportunities in that. Today, Mike Groth, I sent out, he just messaged me, just got the DJ Moore autograph jersey. Can't wait to get it framed. We're
Awesome.
doing things that nobody else does because that's what we're trying to do is we're creating a community that no one else has. You guys can join that for $5 a month. Honestly, it's the best out there. So let's talk about some more trades because that's really what we're all about. Mark Fisher wants to know Hockenson or McLaurin and Ridley. I already have Bowers. I don't care if you have Bowers. You're keeping Hockenson. You want it?
If this is Dynasty, I don't know. If you're gonna drop a trade question, just put if it's Dynasty or redraft. Yeah. And if it's like tight end
Dynasty, premium, I want Hawk. He's back this week, baby.
Terry's old, like old when you look at the number, but he's like just hitting his stride because it's taken him so long to finally get a QB. Like Terry's such an underrated, like top 15 wideout right now, just balling out week after week.
You can get him for a second.
He's like guaranteed a couple deep shots a game from Daniel. It's like those two are building that connection, and it's only going to get better. I don't know. Yeah, I'd take Hawk value-wise, especially in tight end premium, full PPR. But like if I'm contending and I have like a Kittle or I have a Bowers, like in this situation, I'd take Terry and Ridley. Ridley's another guy, like a sleeper guy that now that he doesn't have shitbag Levis throwing him the football.
Exactly. If Mason Rudolph, because he was running track events, like he was getting open all the time. K and Rook, someone last week, is it crazy to start K. Dotton over McBride because of the receiver situation in Tampa? Is it crazy this week?
I wouldn't do it against KC. Don't do it against KC if you're going to do it.
Yeah, and I think
K. McBride, he's the guy there right now.
Rest of season, is going to be a top 10 tight end. I think until Mike Evans comes back, he's a top 5 tight end. I think there's really nothing. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's Jalen McMillan. We're gonna roll with this, or we're gonna go with Sterling Shepard." It's K. Dotton. It's gonna function through him. He's been the tight end too. I think we're definitely going that route. You know what I mean? I think we got to go out there and build.
I watched the whole breakdown on the Cardinals offense. The way they're using it right now is it's literally like Trey McBride's like the volume underneath guy, and they're using Marv as like that outside X field stretcher kind of. Third down, you need someone to go make a play. It's him. That's what I've found, and I don't like is Marv has over 10 targets. Like they got to keep feeding Marv. He's an absolute monster. Absolutely. I don't like that he's the one that's starting off slow, and BTJ and Neighbors are getting all this love because I do think that Marv should damn well be in that conversation, if not above both of those guys, or right there behind Neighbors. I still think Neighbors is just a better wideout. Like. You could always tell Neighbors was more electric, more fit for today's NFL. I just always
you have an opportunity to buy Neighbors now. Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about
3 guys are all studs too. And same with
BTJ. People have been saying BTJ in a second for Neighbors right now is like because they've closed the gap. Neighbors is a lot more talented.
Davis.
You should be buying there.
Yeah,
so Scarface, he said, speaking of tight ends in the Smash Accept League, I took over an orphan. I drafted Bowers at 108, then traded him for JJ McCarthy. Did I make a mistake, Chico? Yes.
Yeah, Chico. It's the eyes for me. You got tricked by the eyes, Scarface.
Yeah, I mean, I think McCarthy's going to be fine. I think he's a nice dynasty rebuild type buy. But Brock Bowers is the man. That's what you want to go. We've already covered this, but Dave Heilman, amazing guy on Twitter. You guys got to make sure you guys follow him. Doing a lot of great things with Dynasty Dorks. You guys really come out in droves when you guys are doing these kind of questions. I love it. Again, Super Chat's the best way to get in there. Snoog, Travis Kelce's had a bit of a resurgence. Tight end 6 over the last 5 weeks. What are you willing to pay to get Travis Kelce? Is it an early second now? It's no longer a first,
heavy tight end premium. If I don't have Kittle, McBride, Bowers, or like Evan Ingram, Njoku, I'm paying an early second all day, or I'm paying a pair of seconds, mid to late. Yeah, I think he's going to give you those weeks where it's just a Kelce Mahomes show. I know we haven't seen it too much lately, but he was still tight end 1 in points per game last year, and he was still pacing to come out to be easily the tight end 1. And there was some good tight ends last year, so
Yeah.
He's still got it in him. I think it sounds stupid to say, but it's almost like they're saving him and like saving his juice and keeping him healthy because he's at
That's what
that
I was
point in his
saying.
career.
That's what I
And
was
then
saying
like
with when Rice was there. You're like,
yeah, when they
okay,
need that first round bye, he's gonna start going off.
You know who's going to go? I think Nuke looked. I was watching
He
the
looked
tape.
great,
He was
dude.
open.
I've been
He looked.
saying he's still good. Like I
I'm
always
paying
thought
a
he was still a
second.
stud.
I'm paying a second for Nuke right now. I think
He's
you
a
can get him for
first
the
ballot Hall of Famer, like,
208
no
to
doubt.
212. He was open nonstop. His routes look crisp. I watched him at Tennessee, especially when I was at the game, and it's like, okay, he was winning because they were like throwing him contested catches. He looked sharp. He was getting open. Like I would definitely make an offer for Nuke.
I wouldn't be shocked if he just gives like a ridiculous stretch of games where it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because like he's always just been that guy that he's like, he's gonna be Mahomes' safety blanket and he catches everything. Like even if he's not open, he's catching the ball. Like he's
amazing
incredible
hands
with that.
So tight end 1 for the season right now, we're looking at Bowers is number 1. Or I'm sorry, Kittle's number 1 at 18 points per game. Bowers is number 2 at 14.1. Trey McBride at 13.2. And we've been pounding the drum for those guys. Njoku's 11.9. Pitts 11.1. It was really surprising that he's moved into the top 5, tied with Tucker Kraft and Kelce. And then it's Cole Kmet at 11.0. A lot of people really are big on Cole Kmet. I personally am not a fan. But you can't argue that, he's put up some pretty decent weeks. What are you doing with this Bears offense in general? Because Caleb Williams he's been sharp some games, throwing for 300 plus. Other games he's been down. It's been back-to-back horrible weeks. Is it DJ Moore a buy? Is Cole Kmet a buy? Or is it just Swift from this offense? I mean, that's the questions I get asked the most right now in the Discord are, what are we doing with Caleb? What are we doing with the Bears?
Yeah, Rome Odunze is a buy. I think Caleb is a buy to an extent, depending on what you can get him for. Shane Waldron, to answer your question, super hot, is terrible.
Trash.
I don't like how he runs offenses. I hated how he used the Seattle wide receiver trio, and he's doing the same thing with this wide receiver trio. DJ Moore's been underwhelming. The correct answer is, since we haven't really seen it from Rome Odunze yet, you have a better odds of getting people to panic and sell low and just get him off my team. I don't want him now. I'm nervous he's going to bust. You see BTJ, you see Neighbors, you see Marv, even Worthy and some of these other guys. Like Worthy has like 6 touchdowns already. Xavier Worthy was 170-yard touchdown miss away from Mahomes from being like a 14-plus points per game scorer in his first 7 weeks. So there's been a ton of good rookie wide receivers that have flashed.
What are you paying for those two? Rome and Worthy right now.
I'd pay a late first for Rome. Worthy's so much better and more fun of an NFL player rather than an actual fantasy football asset. Just right now, I think there's a world where he could become more of a fantasy football asset. I don't know. Are you
paying a late first still? The answer is no. You're paying an early second. Rome Odunze, I'd pay the 108. I think
if I had to redraft, Neighbors, Marv, BTJ, Rome, Ladd, Worthy.
Okay.
Same top 6 I had pre-draft, but you're just flipping BTJ with Rome and you're flipping Ladd with Worthy. So
if you had to redo it again, I mean, I almost put Neighbors and Bowers too. I would put Keon over Worthy for sure.
I think you got to.
It's
I
just
don't
crazy,
know though. Worthy's been like the tape. He looks good. He's been good. Yeah. Like he's scoring a ton of touchdowns. The Chiefs are weird. Like we should have known this going into it, how weird they are with rookies, especially. Like it's such a everybody eats offense. It's not like if he went to the Lions or the Packers or one of these teams that it's like you're getting endless deep balls and opportunities to make big plays. It's like, yeah, fire him up. But he's not getting that, even though he's out there and he's getting open. Mahomes can't hit anything deep right now. Like we've seen it. So I don't know. It's just weird. I just got to trade live. I want to know what you think. I want to know what everybody in here thinks. Would you trade CJ Stroud in like the 202 to 204 for Jalen Hurts? I'm the number 1 seed. I got Goff and Stroud. I have an unreal team, and like honestly, this second really doesn't do anything for me. And I have AJB, so I'd have the stack.
I'm all in on
Tell me
Jalen.
you would do it.
I'm all in
You
on
would do
Jalen
it?
Hurts. You know I am, especially if it's 4-point, because then you get the rushing touchdowns.
It's
They're worth so much
6-point,
more.
but I'm still doing it. I don't care.
I think I would do it. I think I would do it. I've been Jalen since day one. I got to have him. We're talking about tight ends, and you and I have talked so much about the running backs, getting Kamara, getting Henry, getting Mixon. You miss out on Kelce and Kittle. Who are those other tight ends? Like I look at it right now. I think Evan Ingram, with the injury of Christian Kirk, who's now out for the year, I think Evan Ingram is going to put up massive volume. I think he's going to end up being a top 5 tight end for the rest of the way. And Mark Andrews has really started to put it together. I think both of these guys are clearly worth an early second, but I think you can get them cheaper. Is there anybody that's really sticking out to you? I mean, I'm buying Njoku where I can. I'm buying Ingram. Those are the two main guys that I'm trying to make an opportunity out there. Mark Andrews, I think, is taking a little bit of a hit since the Deontay Johnson news, but I still think he'll be a red zone guy. But those 3 guys are it for me. What tight ends are you buying outside of, Kelce, Kittle? Who's another guy that's like, you know what? I need this guy to help me win. Because it's an ugly position after you get after
Evan
the
Ingram.
top. Yeah.
It's got to be Evan Ingram right there because you got Christian Kirk out. We saw what he did last year. Tight end 2, 100 receptions. Without Christian Kirk there, it's going to be more slot snaps. T-Law loves Evan Ingram, dude. It's going to be the BTJ Evan Ingram show. They finally have a receiver that can stretch the field in BTJ and actually make plays downfield, score touchdowns. I think Evan Ingram's like guaranteed, especially in like a tight end premium league versus just a regular PPR when you're relying on touchdowns.
I think Parker Washington's going to score more than – I think he's going to score more than Kirk was. Like, he's better than people think.
Yeah, I think Evan Ingram in like 0.5, 0.75, even full tight end premium. 0.75 or full, I'm paying a late first, and especially a 26 first, because you're just getting a guy that you're going to get 6 to 7 receptions, 5, 6, 7 receptions a game. That alone, you're getting 10 to 12 points in like a full tight end premium league, or 0.75, you're getting like 9 or 10 points, and then the yards. So I think that varies. Some sleeper tight ends. Hunter Henry is a sleeper tight end I'm buying everywhere just to stash as like a backup. Taysom Hill's another good one that, like, with Kamara's playing with like broken ribs and a broken hand right now. I didn't even know this. It makes sense because if you look at Kamara's first few weeks, he's like 80-90% of snaps. Past few, he's been like 50, like low 50s. Expect that to ramp up with Carr. Yeah, I expect that to come up with Carr. But yeah, the broken hand makes sense. He's been dropping passes. I think Taysom Hill's a guy, if Kamara has this injury all year and is battling through it, they don't want to give him as many goal line opportunities. Taysom Hill could be a guy that sneaks in a couple, maybe throws a touchdown or 2 in a game. Like, these are just players, like when you play like one of these flex type dart throw tight ends like Hunter Henry, Taysom Hills, you're looking for touchdowns. And those are 2 guys that can give you touchdowns or big weeks. He's arguably Drake May's number 1 target. And then Will Dissly's a sleeper, deep dart throw. That's been pretty good with Justin Herbert, and the Chargers have been passing a lot more. But just some guys I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, for me, if I'm really taking some deep shots, like if I'm saying I got to trade a third for a guy that's going to be my tight end of the rest of the year, I'm looking at Tyler Conklin and Dalton Schultz. It's gross, but they're gonna give you some weeks where you're gonna catch. Both of them right now, they're tight end 11. They're tied right there in that 11-12 range. Both of them 38 targets, 23, 26 receptions. They have TD upside with good quarterbacks with Aaron Rodgers and CJ Stroud. I think Dalton Schultz gets a bump up because the Stephon Diggs injury. Right now Tank Dell's going to get a bump. I think Nico Collins is about to absolutely blow the top off. Nico Collins is a league winner. Go trade for Nico Collins right now if you can, especially in redraft, because a lot of people are like, oh, man, if I lose this week, I'm out of playoffs. Go after that guy that has Nico Collins. But I think those give you some opportunities. Kyle Wynn just asked, what about Tyrone Tracy, thoughts and values? This is another guy that has league-winning upside. Someone that I was wrong when I said don't draft him into the late second of your rookie drafts, because this guy, I forget about the age. This guy has gone out there and put up, every time he touches the ball 20 times, he gets 130, 140 yards plus a touchdown. Devin Singletary's toast. Kyle, Tyrone Tracy right now, I think, is a smash. I would pay up to a mid-second because I think the condition of the Giants offense, if he plays as well as he is, he's a starter next year too. So I think you're buying him cheap.
Absolutely. Do you think Tyrone Tracy, because I've been getting a lot of questions in the Discord, should I sell him for this? Should I sell him for that? I've been seeing way too many people saying, like, should I sell Tyrone Tracy and Chase Brown for a first, or Tyrone Tracy and Nick Chubb for a first, or Tyrone Tracy and a guy that's worth maybe a late second at best for a first? I think you almost want to entertain selling Tyrone Tracy in certain
for
leagues.
The first, yeah.
And if markets aren't caught up yet and you can get him for like a mid to late second, I'm willing to pay that, because this is an offense with a great offensive-minded head coach in Dabble, a nasty receiver. They're building something here. As soon as they get rid of Daniel Jones and they get like a Shedeur Sanders or one of these guys coming out of the 25 class, or maybe it's it's Arch Manning in 2026 or something like that. These are the type of things you're looking for, where it's like, okay, now they actually have a quarterback. Now what can they do? Like, or if they get a guy like a not going to be a Geno, but one of those like veteran producer guy, Russ Wilson, Baker Mayfield types out of free agency, the offense can be a lot better. So he's a guy that you could buy into low, and he was a receiver in college. So he's a guy that has that pass catching profile background, which you're always looking for.
Dude's going to be 25. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
crazy as a rookie. You know, Snoog, you were talking about the Discord. I just opened it up. You know, I started this podcast. Since we've started the podcast, I have 66 DMs. We're going to just try to barrel through those things tonight. Make sure we give you guys the best answers. But a lot of guys are, Snoog, they'll come in there and they'll say, hey, Dad, here's my roster for this week. Can you check my starters? Other guys will be like, yo, I'm thinking about starting X, Y, and Z. Who's the guy? Or other people will say, hey, I have this trade and this trade. Which one would you take? We literally look at these rosters as if they're our own. You know, right now, Snoog and I are in a combined almost 50 leagues. We're in first and second in about, 40 of them? Like it's right now I'm at about 80%.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we're trying to do, is show you the principles that we're doing with insulated trades, with tearing down off of players, all these different things that Snoog and I do all the time. We're trying to teach to you guys. And in the Discord, we're teaching it even more. We're trying to say, there's that whole adage of teach a man to fish, et cetera, et cetera. We're just teaching you how to smash, baby. Get those smash trades down. Luckily, that's not the wrong podcast. People be like, yo, Dad, that's a little, you hit the pause button on that one. But we are teaching you guys how to smash trades, how to win your leagues. And that's the place to be right now. So, Snoog, anything else before we wrap up here? I mean, we hit the tight end position hard. Everybody's been asking about tight ends. We're here to hit it the best we can. Yeah, no, I mean, main thing is just make sure you guys tune in to all the stuff we're putting out on Twitter, daily threads, just stuff to try to help spread awareness, help you guys with trades, advice, who to pick up on your waivers, that type of stuff. And then it goes even deeper into the Discord. Dad highlighted it. All of my rankings are in there. My rest of season rankings, my weekly rankings are updated. All my dynasty rankings are in there. You probably won't ever see my rankings on Twitter. They're exclusively for our Discord members right now. That's the way I'm doing it. But man, that Discord is bumping. We got like almost close to 460 people in there right now. And every time I check it, it's like 20 plus DMs, 20 plus messages. And it's like people are literally like, Snoog, you guys should open up like a tip option, because you guys are just busting your asses off all day long. And it's cool though. It's cool to, like, when I'm really working for my actual job and I can like step away and take like a 10-minute break, go in there, answer some questions, get back to what I was doing, maybe lunchtime, check it in the morning, at night. Just something cool to do, help people out with their teams, roster construction. Do I rebuild? I'm 6-2. I lost this guy to injury. What can I do now? Like, these are questions we're answering 24/7 in there. So make sure you check it out. You sign up through Patreon, link in our bio, and then you get the invite email to the Discord. So yeah, it's honestly, it's been an absolute blast. We love doing it. Guys that are in there and loving it, there's the link right below, patreon.com/smash accept. We're putting things out on YouTube all the time. Make sure you guys are following us on there. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Boom.